Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Law Excellence IAS. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 27th November 2020. The first article for discussion is, are tougher laws the answer to check online abuse? Let us try to understand the word online abuse over here. It refers to an array of activities that can come under the definition cyberbullying. Either it is online stalking, sexual harassment, hate speech, bullying, everything comes under this. Do we have sufficient laws to address this? In India, definitely, according to me, there is a legal vacuum. Because IT Act, it was enacted long back, and till date, there is no revision of this particular act. The second part, legal awareness is another issue. Implementation is the other issue. So here, though the authors argue that the existing criminal laws are sufficient to address this problem, remember one point, the special laws create an impact. So making a special law for online bullying can bring in some awareness in itself. Now, the second point is, NCRB, National Crime Records Bureau, stated that only 20,000 cases of online harassment, bullying, sexual harassment, etc. are being booked. Don't you think it is a very understatement? It means many of the cases are going missing and they are suffering in silence. So that's where an effective implementation and awareness generation can make a difference. Section 66A of IT Act, it prohibits online defamation, harassment, etc. In this, government started misusing this to file the cases on any comments online. So it was declared as unconstitutional and nullified by the Supreme Court in Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case. So today, after the 66A of IT Act is removed, clearly there is a legal vacuum. Now, we have intermediaries. Who are these intermediaries? Who host my information, your information and everything? Google, YouTube, Facebook, these can be called as intermediaries. These intermediaries shall be made responsible and accountable for the content they hold. Online filtering and ensuring that hate-related content or bullying is removed is essential over here. The next is, if a law has to be made, how this law has to be? Let me explain it this way. Any law need to be consistently applied. As there is no law passed by the parliament, every state is making its own laws related to cyberbullying. And this can lead to inconsistency. Second, the law has to be specific. Any law that is made in generic terms, generic wordings, will not stand legal scrutiny, judicial scrutiny, as it can be misused. Let me give you an example over here. Chhattisgarh has made a law with regard to online sexual harassment. Finally, the government has misused that law against a journalist. So when the laws are non-specific, there is a greater chance they can be misused. So our take-home points are, hate speech is rampant online and there is no proper legal framework to address this. Awareness and implementation are further challenges. Third thing is, intermediaries shall be made responsible. Any law for social media accountability has to be specific and applied uniformly throughout the length and breadth of the country. These are the take-home points. Next is a clear reading of Ayurveda surgery move. If we have to improve the healthcare in India, we talk about two important points. One is access, the other is quality. Making the services available to all is the first objective of any service delivery. It is important in the case of essential services like health, education, etc. Then what is the major problem with regard to healthcare sector in India? That is lack of manpower, sufficient manpower. Our medical colleges are unable to bring in, nurture, train sufficient manpower who can work throughout the length and breadth of the country. That is where came mainstreaming of the Ayush doctors. Now Ayush doctors, they are in search for an identity and they are ready to take up the jobs of the government necessary to serve the people in rural areas. Mainstreaming of these Ayush doctors need to be welcomed. Immediately after independence, if you observe that, we had many integrated courses between modern medicine, allopathy, and the Indian medicine, that is Ayush. Now, it is the time we have to think about these integrated courses and mainstreaming skill upgradation of Ayush doctors. Coming to Ayurveda surgery, it is not to be a field that has to be worried much, because the modern surgical medicine and Ayurveda surgery can never be a competition to each other. This can be better ignored. We shall not lose the forest for woods. That is the statement I am making here. Here, Ayush mainstreaming is essential for primary healthcare related service delivery, and we use them there. This Ayush surgery and the controversy surrounding this shall not deviate us from the major focus. That is what we can say. Next is policing faith. To explain this, let me give you a scenario. A Hindu girl married to a Muslim boy. Today, various derogatory words are being used to explain this. One important among this is love jihad. Now, can't I see this as a choice of this Hindu girl? Shall we see it as a systemic aspect of one community trying to undermine the other community? In this case, anti-conversion laws are being passed by many of the northern states. These anti-conversion laws clearly states that any allurement to marriage is also a forcible conversion. As it is a forcible conversion, both the conversion and the marriage will be nullified. Both conversion and marriage will be nullified. Remember one thing, Supreme Court in Stanislaw's case in 1977 clearly stated that the right under Article 25, that is freedom to propagate a religion, do not provide for freedom for conversion. But it did not state marriage is a forcible conversion, or converting one religion and getting married to another guy from another religion, do not come under forcible conversion till date. Do these laws stand scrutiny? If you take the Hadia case, Supreme Court has clearly stated that any kind of marriage is a personal choice of the marrying couple. It has to be seen as an individual freedom and choice of these young people. So, state getting involved with the personal aspects of the life of the young people is not good for social harmony. It ultimately leads to a kind of a social discard and regression. That's how we will put it as. The next aspect is storm warnings. This is about Cyclone Nivar. Remember, we have expected a huge devastation from this cyclone. We also feared that it can lead to urban deluge, which happened in Chennai few years back. But it did not happen. The credit has to be given to accurate forecasting by IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, and then effective action by NDRF, Disaster Response Forces, and frontline civilian forces. But there are fundamental issues still remain. What are these? Why this monsoon flooding has become a normal, as a new normal? The reason is this. Many a times, land sharks, land grabbing, or encroachment of water bodies is the major problem. So there is a natural water flow that exists in every landscape. This natural water flow is disturbed, encroached, and finally leading to this urban deluge. So clearing these encroachment has to be the first responsibility. Next is peri-urban wetlands need to be restored. These peri-urban wetlands, they act as natural sinks. They need to be restored. Civic infrastructure need to get due attention. If we can do this, we can get away from this nightmare of monsoon flooding, urban deluge, etc. Next is putting trade ties on a new footing. This article is about India-USA trade relations. After Biden come to power, will India be his first priority? The answer is not very assertive, because the COVID-19 is the first priority as already declared, If you clearly observe, Mr. Kelly, the former Secretary of State, is appointed as a special envoy for climate change. So the next important thing will be climate change and the issues in Europe, especially US-UK free trade agreement and multilateral issues such as Trans-Pacific Partnership, etc. Then probably India may be in the list. In this context, there are many issues that are pending between India and US, especially related to intellectual property rights and innovation, digital trade, e-commerce, etc. These need to be addressed. Till these are addressed, a trade pact may be possible, but free trade agreement will be a distant dream. So these issues need to be resolved first. Next is rein in the vaccine nationalism, the profiteering. To understand this article, you need to understand the meaning of public good. If we consider something as a public good, it has to be provided as an essential good for everyone. It means that someone cannot capture this good for their own benefit. It has to be used for the collective benefit. In this, government can regulate its production, distribution, sale, everything. So, air is a public good. It means who owns that public good? The people at large, and government is the custodian. Government acts as the custodian. Air, water, minerals, all these are public goods. In these circumstances, vaccine nationalism need to be avoided, and capture of the vaccine by the rich and influential also need to be avoided. What we can do for this? That where comes a provision called compulsory licensing in Indian the Intellectual Property Rights Act. So what is this compulsory licensing in IPR Act and WTO of India? If a public good is cornered for profit by any patented company, then government can order for its manufacturing by others. Simply understand. Let's take if I have gotten a patent on a particular product and it is an essential product for everyone, then government can simply say that some other guy will manufacture as people need it. So government can go to the extent of declaring this vaccine as a public good so that it can issue compulsory licensing for different manufacturers to manufacture and supply to the need of the people. That is what author is trying to say. Next is, with self-reliance push, China looks to reset ties with the world. Here, Xi Jinping is talking about dual circulation. The China's biggest problem today is excess capacities. And China plays an important role in global value chains. But after COVID-19, the dynamics are expected to change. In this context, China is going to an alternative plan, which is called a dual circulation. If first an internal circulation will be created, it means that the buying power of the local residents will be improved. Local demand will be raised for the products so that the jobs will not be lost. Companies will still stay in production. And second is the outer circulation or the other circulation. This is to maintain the external demand for the Chinese goods and services by being assertive, by diversifying the production norms, production places, and decreasing the risk. So this is the risk diversification strategy of China. Next is, those in high places should be above prejudices. President Ramnath Kovind on Constitutional Day in address to judiciary has clearly stated that the people in highest offices have to be free from partisanship and prejudices. That is the first statement. And the second thing is, due to COVID-19, the number of pending cases have increased in Supreme Court and every other court in India. This pendency need to be immediately addressed. Here, Chief Justice of India, Mr. Bobde, has clearly stated that pre-litigation mediation with the effect of a decree, force of a decree, need to be brought in for these pending cases. Added to that, K.K. Venugopal, the Attorney General of India, stated that we need to create special benches for Court of Appeal. These special benches with 15 judges will help to solve the pending cases. And on the other side, High Court has taken over executive functions. That is the Andhra Pradesh government's notion. High Court, which is supposed to be a judicial institution, is putting blocks to the executive functions. This is the accusation made. This is often described as judicial activism. And Andhra Pradesh government states that This judicial activism is not good for the independence of judicial institution, and it is violation of the basic structure of the constitution, that is separation of powers. Next is transition of power in the United States risks conflict on both sides. Understand one thing. In India, the transition of power is very smooth. Because the bureaucracy is permanent, it ensures the smooth transfer of power. But highest bureaucracy in United States of America is non-permanent. It means that whenever the president changes in USA, the bureaucrats will also change. Close to 4,000 plus senior bureaucrats, they come and go with the president. It means that if the transition is not properly handled, that creates a huge gap in understanding and ensuring the continuity in government action. That's why transition is such an important activity in the United States of America. If you observe, every election has certain deadlines to transfer the power. Why these deadlines? So that government keeps on working and transition is going to be smooth. Next is farmers marching to Delhi. You know, farm bills are being criticized as non-friendly to the farmers. Similarly, trade codes or labor codes are also criticized as non-labor friendly. In this case, the marginalized farmers and workers are coming together as a march towards Delhi. I think this is one active farmers movement which we are witnessing recently. And all the farmers unions also have come together under one banner as Samyukt Kisan Morcha. So obviously it is going to be a defining moment in consolidating farmers as a pressure group on the government. Finally, Prime Minister Modi pitches for one nation, one election. You know, simultaneous elections is what the agenda of the BJP. The major reason which they state is the development is getting sidelined, or the elections, multiple elections, is removing the focus away from development and governance. Second, it is becoming expensive to conduct elections at multiple times. The third most important point what they talk to support this is one single electoral roll has to serve every election in India. Here the simultaneous election or one election, one nation, it means that common elections to union parliament, state legislature and the local governments. This is Dr. Ram Babu signing off for Law Excellence IAS. Thank you very much. Have a great day.